The crypto rally just got bigger and better, and in today's video we'll be going over the minimum signal that would identify when this bull market, identifying as a bull market, is potentially going to end. It would be the minimum signal. For that, of course, we'll also go over, I suppose, the maximum signal as well, but just a very quick and easy way to kind of see and gauge how hot we are within this current rally. Of course, I've been getting a couple questions about this as well. When is the next sale on Quant Prime? I want to automate my trades. It's coming in at the end of this month. Why? It's Black Friday. It's a big fucking surprise, right? Big sale on Black Friday, and maybe even again on Christmas. It's like it's almost as if these things don't change. But yes, we'll be having sales during that time as always, and we'll have it actually for all of the services here too. And then one last thing before we get into the content of the day, but that is tomorrow's Q&A session. We'll be fielding questions from this Discord channel right here. We've had a massive influx into the Discord, which is really, really cool to see as well. And anyone's free to join. There's a link in the description below. You can contribute to this thread, which I'll be pulling questions from, and I'll do my best to answer as many as I can within about 30 minutes on tomorrow's video. And it looks like the turnout is pretty good, so we'll maybe need a better way of managing priority on this in the future. But yeah, really cool to see, and we'll see how things go from there. All right, sweet. Let's jump into the reference at the beginning of this video, the minimum signal, which I think is best explained by the weekly time frame on CME here, which by the way is going to be closing today, and looking at volatility. Volatility kind of gives us an idea of the intensity, if you will, of a particular move. Both the upside and the downside volatility is direction neutral, but basically when you see volatility get rather high, that is going to be marking off major highs within the market, especially on a time frame like this, the weekly. You can backtest this yourself by eye right here. Anytime that you see it get especially above about 75 to 80 percentile, these are major highs and lows actually. Again, it is direction neutral, so works on both ends. Anyways, what I've gone ahead and done is I have marked off the minimum area that we've even seen a major high, not even a cycle high, but a major high on weekly BBWP for CME. And that was back here in February of 2023. That was obviously last year. And that was coming off of that first major rally attempt. And things actually did continue upwards and onwards from there. Now, of course, it did have a pretty nasty correction almost immediately after that. I think that was about a 20 or so % correction over the course of, it felt like days, but it's actually about 3 weeks. But in this case, we can see that this particular expansion phase, which is essentially confirming this move. So yes, I do think that this goes on for more. We very likely see at least trading somewhere into the mid 70s. And realistically, because this is, at least in my opinion, a major breakout and a cycle move, whereas this one over here was not, or a cycle high or anything like that, we're very likely to see BBWP get probably into the 90s, similar to what we did see on that first major attempt here in March, and in several other cycle highs in the past. So, if you're just kind of eyeballing this right here, yes, it can certainly shoot up vertical, and it can travel quite a fair bit in terms of percentiles, but from period to period. But even on this current rally, I do expect this to continue expanding at least until mid/end of December, probably closer to end of December, just kind of extrapolating out over here. And again, that would be minimum. I do think that this thing eventually will get somewhere around here, which still leads us into, very late in Q1 of 2025. So like end of February / end of March area. I'm still looking at that as probably going to be a major high, if not a cycle high for this cycle. And maybe I'll do a long video on that this weekend. I think now is actually the time, now that we actually have this move and several things are starting to confirm in the background for me. But yeah, that does suggest that yes, we're very likely to see this continue on. Again, the bi-weekly signal was something that we confirmed last week, and this one continuing up here as well. So even the bi-weekly BBWP has a long ways to go. So I'd even say, you're probably not going to see the cycle top out or like a major high around that 75 percentile on the weekly. You're probably going to see deep into the 90s, because this one is still very, very subdued. In fact, I mean, this probably at least gets to 80 percentile itself for the biweekly BBWP, at least. And so this has some room to go. It has some room to go, at least in my opinion, as things get underway here, and especially momentum remaining to the upside. I'm still going to be overall bullish. Now, this is the higher term timeframes. Lower term timeframes we'll go over later. They're actually not that different, but we'll go over them later. Anyways, moving on here now. Let me just reference my notes. I should take this moment because people are actually coming back into this market again. If you find this content valuable, or if you even just find it entertaining, please consider liking and subscribing, or liking and derping, whatever you prefer. Anyways, let's just jump right into the next one over here. This is actually, no, I want to say this for a little bit later. Let's go over the weekly closure and the new 5-day for the CME HPDR. 5-day time frame, I think, is actually rather interesting. We have seen yet another base off the 38.2 level. So, I actually don't think that we're going to see too much further down from what we've already seen. Maybe there might be another retest around this region. But because this is a trend in motion, I actually would be looking for this to very likely test the top side of the 50% region right here between now and the next period or two, which I guess would be about 5.5 days from now, and maybe as many as 10 days from now, but probably within the next 5.5 day period. And that is just a hair underneath 80,000. So yeah, I think things are continuing from here. And, the people who are waiting for a pullback, I mean, first off, you got it on the last 5-day period right here. That was right before elections on almost the exact same date that we spoke about as a likely low for November. But realistically, you had fucking 6 or 7 months in this area right here to position. So for the people who are waiting for the retest is for... I almost said it, but it is, and you know where I'm going with that. It is. I'm sorry. It's not meant to be offensive, but it's the truth. It's the truth, okay? And look, good breakouts do not retest. The retarded ones do. They retest, and those are the ones that have actually first off, they typically don't go as far because they're not as strong, and then second off, can obviously fail from there as well. Good breakouts do not retest. The best ones do not. If you're waiting for that, you're fucked. You're not going to always be fucked. I mean, sometimes it will work out for you, but it'll be much less. Anyways, moving on from there, weekly time frame for CME on the HPDR, we can see the top side of the current range is 78,200. I don't think this is going to happen today, but if you did see Bitcoin close above that today for the weekly closure, then next week we're extremely likely going to see into the low 80s, 82-ish, maybe 85, something like that. I mean, things can get fucking crazy. But yeah, this closing in 15 hours, 44 minutes. I'm not necessarily convinced that it's going to close this week above 78,200. So, if it does, okay, fair enough. That would be the next sort of areas of interest for next week. And if it doesn't, well, coming back down and maybe retesting slightly below 75, that's fine as well. Anyways, moving on from there, we should actually look at HPDR for the weekly spot, and this one also I think is rather enlightening. This one actually showing the top side of the 38.2 level at almost $82,000. So kind of corroborating that story with the 5-day projection that I just kind of went over. So I actually do think that probably does get tested in this next week or two from now. I know that it's kind of like a pretty aggressive projection, but higher term timeframes are taking over here. Lower term timeframes, I feel like he can kind of get lost in the sauce. Yeah, there's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be pullbacks, of course. Some even very sharp and nasty. Obviously, that can happen, but when you have a breakout that's been brewing for after like a 6-month, 7-month long consolidation, like, you get crazy moves typically. Anyways, bringing out the new caretaker goodness, the CT sequential here, which is actually giving you a projection as far as sequential runs are concerned. So that's kind of a not a very great description of what this is. So basically what this is doing, and let me just put on the info box right here, it'll make a lot more sense. Where did I herpity derp? There we go. See, I'm a herpity derp too, okay? So I can say that word. It's my word. But basically, when we see two closures of the same color, so or more consecutive closures of positive or negative, but in this case, obviously positive, it can project the price probability as well as the actual price returns on average, and even to a percentile degree as well, that you would expect if things continue from there. So this run has obviously started on the 5th of November with that first green massive dildo coming in, and actually on the 6th of November. But we have 1, 2, 3 working on number 4 right here. So you can see the stats right here. And then I think it's also just very well represented visually with this projection right here, just going off of the average essentially. So, this would assume that we continue to see literally just only green days if you were to kind of follow this projection. Now, of course, you're going to get red days within an overall, uptrend. But, it's kind of a fun tool to be looking at and showing, the potential returns, if this one really does continue on a day-by-day basis from here. I mean, that's where really next week could very easily see into the 80s. And I actually do think within the next 2 weeks we do see 80s. It's just my opinion. Anyways, moving on from there, we should go look at some actual daily probabilities. Friday, basically a coin flip in terms of whether it's likely to close positively or negatively, 50-50 on both sides. But what we're interested in here is the range. These have been pretty damn good, just in general. To the downside, average return would bring us down to maybe 74.3. So I do think that that's an area of interest. To the upside, if things continue, 77,800. So not bad. And of course, if we go ahead and reference lower term timeframes, looking at the 6 hour, looking at the 4 hour, Bitcoin did play off a little bit of bearish divergence yesterday. We've seen a little bit of ebbs and flows. It really wouldn't be too much to even get Bitcoin slightly back down below 75,000 bucks again. I mean, could very easily happen, or even down to like low 74 for a quick move like this. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it did, that's not like super concerning. I mean, just be playing out some of these divergences here. But it's already working off of these extreme conditions on the 4 hour BBWP. So I'm inclined to say that, hey, again, it's like we can look at the 4 hour, we can look at the 6 hour. Yeah, there is some divergences forming there, certainly. But, when I go to the higher term time frames, the 12, the 10, or sorry, the 12, the 24, the 2 day, the 3 day, the 5 day, I mean, things are just still up. So I don't really have any major real concerns with price, especially as long as it's above 73,500 bucks. So that'd be kind of like a big line in the sand as of right now. So if it did want to play at divergences like that, it could, I suppose, all the way down there, or, like low 74, let's say, to upper 73. But as long as it's above 73.5, the direction is up and to the right. And this next week or two should be rather interesting in terms of trend continuation. If things are going to continue, it very likely happens within that time frame. If it starts to take longer, then that's maybe not the best sign. Anyways, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this video. I'd like to wish you the best. Apologize for the bad intention or the badly worded but good intentioned jokes. And I'd also like to say, take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.